I can't tell if I look like a hot mess or not, but honestly, this is what we've got to work with, so we're just going to roll with it, and it is what it is. So, hi, how are you doing? I've been meaning to do this video for a while. It's the mid-year freakout tag. We are way past the middle of the year. Really about 25 days past the middle of the year. It's the 25th of July as I'm filming this. Why am I only getting around to this? Well, funny you should ask that question. There's a few things. First of all, I've been in the middle of moving cities. I finished my masters and then vacated Oxford as quickly as I could because I physically couldn't afford to live in that city anymore. But that's like cost of living, completely different. We're in a cost of living crisis. And part two is that I was like, okay, cool, I'll move home. And then I've been redoing my room as well and sorting out some like life issues, because while I was moving I did a journey via car and then a journey on the train with just like my clothes and a couple bits that were left. Somebody stole my suitcase with all my clothes, not all my clothes but about 80% of my clothes, especially the clothes I do wear on a regular basis. So that's been really stressful. The police have been less than helpful, and so I've just been super sad about that because I've got barely any clothes and barely any money to replace those clothes. Yeah, that's where we're at. So apart from the fact that you know, I'm poor, what have I been doing? I've been doing some reading and I've been doing some compiling and just getting my shit together because I've been a little bit messy. I've been a little bit scatterbrained. And so I've been kind of like updating my story graph, which is something that I just completely fallen out of doing, as well as like some other bits. And so I thought we could talk about the mid-year freakout tag, books I've read so far, books I've enjoyed, etc. And we could have a little chat about all those good things. So I hope that sounds like a fun time. Get a coffee. I've got a coffee in my Cultivate Kindness mug that you can't see because it's overexposed. But I have a coffee. I've got some questions. Let's chat. So a quick overview, like I said, I've been updating my story graph. I really was really bad at keeping on top of doing that, so I don't exactly know how many books I've read. I think it's about 55, 56 books so far this year, which puts me ahead of my target, which is nice. So yeah, that's where we're at, and let's go through these questions because I feel like I'm just waffling. Question one is the best book that I've read so far, and the best book that I've read so far is this one, which is Experiments in Imagining Otherwise by Lola Olufemi. If you know me, you'll know that I love Lola Olufemi. I think they're a really amazing writer, person, activist type situation. And they published this book last year, I think, via Hajar Press, which is a publishing house that only publishes POC authors. So that's already amazing. But this book, let me pick it back up. This book right here is one of the best books that I've ever read, point blank period. I really enjoyed it. It is basically a collection of short writings, thoughts, musings, collected by Lola Olufemi. And it basically is a book that challenges us to imagine otherwise, as the title would have us think. But it basically challenges us to imagine more than we are now, more than the confines, to imagine something bigger, better, brighter than everything that we have now. There are some amazing little tidbits in here. I really want to go back through and read it again and just really marinate in some of these words, because wow, honestly, just some of the best writing. That's best book that I've read all year without fail. So yeah, there's that. Number two is the best sequel that I've read so far in 2022. I have not actually consumed a lot of sequels in 2022. I don't know what it's been about the year, but I just haven't read that many sequels. I think the best one that I could think of is Electric Idols by Katie Robert, which comes from the Neon Gods series, which is kind of that romance retelling of Greek mythology. I really enjoy them. They're super easy to read and I liked them. And I liked this book. It was fine. And so that's the best sequel I've read so far this year, which isn't really saying a lot because I feel like it's, I don't know, I just haven't read enough to be this is the best one. But this is the one that I enjoyed the most so far that I've read this year, and so we'll go with that one. Number three is new release that I haven't read yet but want to, and there are so many of these. So like I said, I finished my masters, and so pretty much from March to June, I didn't do a lot of reading because I was deep in the field and the throes of my thesis, which was obviously a pressing thing to write. But yeah, so there's quite a lot of books that I just haven't read yet. I think there's a few that I could think of at the top of my head. So there's Hook, Line and Sinker by Tessa Bailey, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I've not got around to those two, and no, I absolutely want to. Vagabonds by, I can't remember who wrote Vagabonds, but I really want to read that as well. Dee from Heroine's Corner did an entire video about why people should read this book, and I honestly, it's right up there, like the top of my to read list. And so those are some new releases that I haven't had a chance to read yet, but like I said, there are so many, like The Swimmers I've not had a chance to read yet. There's just so many that I know I want to get around to, and I know I will get around to. I just haven't really had the time or the bandwidth to do, but don't get it twisted, I will get around to them. Number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So for this, I have got 2. There are way more releases that I'm anticipating in terms of I've seen people kind of doing the rounds a little bit, but these are 2 that I'm I know I absolutely want to read without fail. And that is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, TJR. I really love some of TJR's books, so Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I really, really loved. And Malibu Rising I really enjoyed last year, and so I'm really looking forward to Carrie Soto is Back. Absolutely want to read it, can't wait to get our hands on it. That is definitely one that I'm super anticipating the release of. And then the other one is The Last White Man by Mohsin Hamid. This is a book that the blurb sounds really interesting of. It's the world is becoming progressively darker. And I don't know, reading the blurb, it kind of gave me noughts and crosses, but more mature and adult vibes. So I'm kind of really excited to see and read that, and that's kind of very much on my radar. Number 5 is biggest disappointment, and for this I have 2. I've done a biggest disappointment hype wise, of not living up to the hype. I guess they both didn't live up to the hype, but one is hype and one was personal hype, just if that makes sense. So the one that didn't live up to the hype was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I'm so bad at names, we all know this. Covers here. I had seen The Kiss Quotient do the rounds of romance world for a long, long time. I was so excited to read this book, and then I read it and I was so disappointed. All 3 of them actually. So I read The Kiss Quotient, The Bride Test, the other one. I read all 3 of them at the beginning of the year, and they put me in such a reading slump, because I remember I was so excited to read them, and then they were the first 3 books I read at the beginning of the year, and I was just well, what's even the point in reading anymore if books are going to disappoint me like this? And so those I really didn't enjoy those are probably some of my ones that are way down at the bottom of my list of books this year that I've So yeah, and then there is also biggest personal disappointment, and for me this was Yinka, Where Is Your Husband by Lizzie Damilola. This book was so hype on my radar at the beginning of the year. If you'd asked me at the beginning of the year what books I anticipate being on my top 10 books at the end of the year, I would have said Yinka would have been on that list. And then I read it and I was sad. I think it was mismarketed as a book, and so I think the personal expectations that I'd set for the book just didn't necessarily live up to them. And I think that they're just I don't know, that definitely just could have been more exploration around the characters, the development, about what it actually means to be Black and a woman in Britain, because I think there are so many nuances that were maybe missing from the book. It didn't hit the way that I thought it would hit, and so that was disappointing. Okay, question number 6 is biggest surprise, and for me that would have to be this one, which is Mona by Paula Oleksarik. I think that's how you say this name. Really bad at names. It's really bad. So this one, I didn't think this would be up my street. I don't know why. I kept seeing people talk about it, and I was just a bit okay, you guys are saying this book is amazing, but y'all aren't really selling it to me. And so I was a bit going into it, and then I read it and I actually really enjoyed it. I really loved the main character, the protagonist. I really liked how funny and biting it was. I love the fact that it was set in higher education with conferences and stuff like that. I think it added to I read it while I was on fieldwork doing my dissertation, so I think it just really added to those like vibes of academia and like thoughts I was having, and so I really enjoyed this, and that really surprised me. But yeah, I would really recommend this if you want just something quick, something funny. Yeah, really enjoyed this. Okay, question 7 is new favourite author. They could be debut or new to you, and for this I've chosen a debut author who is Moses Mackenzie. Moses Mackenzie published their first book this year. It's called An Olive Grove and Ends, and I really enjoyed this book. I think it wasn't one that I was expecting to like, and it wasn't one that was on my personal radar at all. And then I read it and I really enjoyed it. It's a book set in Bristol, and it basically is a little like look at Black and like Christian Muslim culture in Bristol in the end, and I really enjoyed this book. I think it had like the right amount of like plot, character development, introspective like looks at communities that people belong to. And also I really like about this book, something I really enjoyed about this book is it's the fact that like there is a lot of language in it that would be inaccessible to a lot of people, in terms of like it's very like Black British as well as Black Bristol, and like patois as well. Like there were a lot of things that maybe I didn't actually know, like, but there were also a lot of things that like very much enter my vocabulary and words that I use and friends use around me, and I really enjoy that look at like Black culture that way, because I think it's like it's very easy sometimes to be like, we want to write for audiences and like make it like everyone. I don't know. I think what I really enjoyed about this book and the writer and the author is the fact that they've not tried to create a book for mass consumption. They've created a book for their community, and if you want to enjoy the book, you have to educate yourself and like almost like position yourself in a way that like you want to join that community. I don't know, I think it's a really powerful stance to take. I think it decenters whiteness, as well as decentering like middle class author and readership, which I really enjoyed. That was a tangent, but Moses Mackenzie, definitely one of my favourite authors that I've discovered this year. Number 8 is newest fictional crush, and for this I've chosen Cameron from the Love Con. This is a book that got me out of the reading slump that the Kiss Quotient put me in. I read it in January at the beginning of the year. I just really enjoyed Cameron as a male protagonist. I think he was really sweet, really endearing. I like the fact that there wasn't like any of that like macho like and I don't know, I just really liked him. I thought he was a very wholesome main character. Therefore, my newest fictional crush, loved him. He was great. So yeah. Question number 9 is newest favourite character, and for this I've chosen Joy from You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Okweke Emezi. This is a book that I was anticipating reading this year, and I enjoyed. I loved Joy as a character. She's probably one of my favourite characters to ever be written. I think she was just a really good friend, a really well developed side character, as well as just somebody that I would personally love to be friends with. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. I don't think a single book has made me cry this year. I'm not really a crier when it comes to books. It's just, I don't know, I rarely ever find myself crying at books. But a book that made me emotional, I will take that avenue with it. A book that made me emotional and probably like really tugged on my heartstrings the most was The Transgender Issue by Sean Fay. This is a book that I listened to middle of this year at some point, I can't say middle. In the like middle of the first half of the year, it's a book that I listened to, and I really like it. Made me emotional because like I just think it was a really important learning point for me. I like consider myself an ally and everything like that, but like, you know, I think there was always like space and room to grow, and there was just a lot of things that I didn't know that were included in the book, and those things made me emotional. And so I'd say that's the book that I would like put under that banner. It didn't make me cry, but like I said, I don't really cry at books, and so those are the ones that's the one I'm gonna say that. Okay, so the next question is books that made you happy, and for this I've gone for 2 like avenues with this. So I've gone for one and then another. So first avenue is the book that just made me personally happy to read, and it was Nora Goes Off Script. I can't remember who this is by, but what I love about this book is that it's a very ordinary romance book. It's very mundane, very run-of-the-mill, very like nothing too spectacular is going on. It's following people in their lives in a very like ordinary way. There are definitely some like aspects to it that are like a bit more like out there, like the main male character is a celebrity and stuff like that, but like I don't know, there was just something so like ordinary about this book in the best way possible. Like I feel like people might think that's like an insult, but if you know me, you'll know that I am a big fan of just ordinary stories, like following people in their everyday lives without anything like big or radical happening to them. I love those stories. I think they're great. And so Nora Goes Off Script made me really happy to read as like a romance book, because I think sometimes that like that aspect sometimes gets lost in romances. So there's that. And then the other avenue I've gone for is these two books. These are books that made me happy because they're written by friends of mine, and I just think that's like, these are just some of my favourites that I've got on my shelf, because like, you know, it's nice to support friends. So the first one is Good Girl by Angela Innes. I'm not sure if these are still being sold, but if they are, I will link the Etsy link down in the description below. Ange is an amazing poet. They are literally just like a wonderful human being, and this is their collection of stories, poetry, and it's all just really phenomenal to read. And so if this is still being sold, please buy her poetry, because I love it. I think it's brilliant. And then the other one is this one, which is Bargain Bin Rom-Com by Lena Norms. I didn't know if I had the com at the end, but yeah, Bargain Bin Rom-Com by Lena Norms. I love Lena. Lena is a creator here on the booktube sphere, and this is their new book that's out at the moment, actually, so I will link that one down in the description below. So yeah, these are just two books that made me happy, because it just makes me happy to see my friends do cool and amazing things and to see them thrive. So it would be remiss of me not to mention these two wonderful books. So yeah, get these if you can. Okay, so the next question is the most beautiful book you've bought this year or received. And for this, I will go with this one, I think. Oopsies, nearly dropped it. And this is All Good Dies Dreaming by, I will put the cover here and it'll be there. By, oh my god, I really hate butchering people's names. Okay, it's really, I know I do it so often. Joaquin Gonzalez. I'm so sorry. I think this is a stunning book. Look at that cover. I will put a like less overexposed version here, but I just think this cover is absolutely stunning. I'm really excited to read this. It's one that I've not got around to reading yet, but I know I absolutely want to. Yeah, so that is one that I'm just like, I think it's beautiful. I think it's stunning. Really excited to read that, and that's probably like the most beautiful book that I've bought all year. Yeah, I try not to judge books by their covers at the moment, but like I'm really bad at like seeing pretty books in stores and being like, I want to read this. But yeah, but this is one that I think is really stunning, but was also just on my like personal like TBR for the year. So that's good. Okay, and then the last question is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? Okay, so I'll talk you guys through the books that I'm currently reading, and then books that I like want to finish as well. So I'm currently reading Honey and Spice by Bolly Babalola. I've got a little bit of that left, so I'm going to finish that super soon. Really excited to finish that one. I'm also reading I Want to Die by I Also Want to Eat to Becky. That one, I'm currently reading that, enjoying that as well. Other books that I definitely know I want to read by the end of the year. Let's go. Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. I like need to read this book. I just heard like phenomenal things about it, so I know I want to read that. This one, which is Abolition Feminism Now, and I want to read that. This is absolutely on my radar for the entire year, so there's that one. I'm trying to think. I just took like, such like a big mental blank there. I just think there are so many books that I like haven't read and want to read. There's obviously all those books that I mentioned at the beginning that like are releases for the second half of the year that I want to read. Oh, I've also got to finish Empire of Pain. I'm currently listening to that, and so that's definitely one that I want to finish before the end of the year. So yeah, those are kind of like the books that I'm like, please check me, please like keep me, and be like, bitch, have you actually finished reading those books? Because I need somebody to keep me in check. But yeah, that is the mid-year freakout tag, all done from me. I would be super curious to know what your favourite books have been so far this year, so please tell me down in the comments below what your faves have been. I'm always on the lookout for book recommendations. I have some really exciting videos planned and coming up, so please do stick around to like watch those. Like I've got a really exciting series about like decentering Western readers, like African literature, authors, all those like really cool things, places to start with, that kind of stuff. I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, I hope that sounds intriguing and exciting to you guys. But yeah, I will see you guys very, very soon.